in the air, put your hands up in the air. Put your hands up in the air, put your hands up in the air.
So just show me the hand them, and then we create a problem. So come there, we start the bacchanal.
In the air.
I wanna see all of the girl them start to wine pon the man them. We behaving bad and waving we rag. I behave in the worst. I behave in the worst. I behave in the worst. I behave in the them na bad nice skinny for me no size the worst. I behave in the worst. I behave in the worst. I behave in the. No, everybody jump up and show me your worst behavior. Jump up, preach your worst behavior. Why not preach your worst behavior? Jump up, preach your worst behavior. Down the road, worst behavior. Why not preach your
Fresh sound. WhatsApp us or call us at 457-9997. Activated Mornings on WEFM 99.9 is on now.
Dry.
And the time right for G, it is 8:12. And we are back with you for another segment of our Activated Mornings program here on WEFM. In studio, it's Dianna, Cain, and myself, Roleza Samuel. And in the virtual studio, we have Nicole Joseph Chin. And we are going to continue our conversation, our topic this morning. Now, I know that before we left off the last conversation, somebody was trying to get in on the conversation. So if you wish to, you can call, preferably no. Or so somebody is calling no. Hi, caller. Good morning.
Good morning. It's only me.
Oh, hi, Optimus Prime.
the panel. Good morning, everybody. Good morning.
Morning.
Yes. Let me see. I could begin with the two political parties in the past. Common Party, which is the PPP, and the Labour Party. They wasn't interested in young people joining the party. Or just a group of adults, old guys to me, because I was young. They wasn't encouraging young people to join the political party. I think the youngest person I saw in the Labour Party, I had like the Honorable Cain and so on. I think Rennie Baptiste was there, and there was adults, big men and women, but they wasn't that old, So the party didn't encouraging young people. Period. The only party in the St. Vincent and Grenadines that ever get the attention of the young people is a party called the United People's Movement, the UPM. I guess you heard about that. Correct?
Right, and this was what the PM was involved in? Or is Jomo Thomas? No, it's one of them.
Yes. The PM was involved. Parnell Campbell, Carlisle Duggan, and I could go on and on and on. But those two original parties did everything in their powers to drive, to kill that party. With the propaganda, communism and socialism and all the ism. That is the only time I ever voted. And I almost get thrown out of the house. Because my parents, they were Labour. And they threatened me that if I ever vote for the United People Movement, I out of here. You out.
So why you tell them? So why you tell them? You didn't have to tell them nothing?
No, I mean, I say nothing. I humble myself. And I get registered. That is the mistake that party made. They did not do a voters registration drive for the young people, because most of the young people didn't have any idea. They thought they could just go in a polling station, some of them and just want vote. They didn't know they had to register and all them kind of thing. They wasn't pushing that.
Mm-hmm.
They had the message. They had the message that attract the young people. I remember they have a big rally supposed to happen in the Market Square. Invited the late Morris Bishop, Prime Minister of Grenada. You know what the government do? They stop him at Annisville Airport and send him back to Grenada. That is the kind of pressure the men was under. They told them if you have two houses, they're gonna take one. They could take one of your cow and give it somebody else. Holy crap.
That's interesting.
And our parents buy into it, you know. They buy into it, and those people, none of those guys get back the candidates get back their deposit. Not one. Blazer Williams was one of the candidates. Man, I tell you, it was something else, but they got the attention of the young people. When you look at a rally, Jomo Thomas, he was involved too. Myself, Glenroy Caesar, Soli, and you know we was the guy like the youth the ULIMO organization who joined up with the other party that formed the United People Movement.
Okay.
And we had it going until they kill it. It reminds me of what they said happened with the referendum, with money and your face and the money and all them kind of thing. All them things was things passed down before. That time communism and socialism was rampant before, you know, the Russia broke up the different Baltic states and so on. Okay. So that they had it before. If one could happen again, that they could still get the attention of the young people. Just they have to preach the message that the young people want and get them to you know, vote. The voters registration, the drive, that is important. Yes. Because when young people turn up to the poll to vote, their name in there, they didn't register. I had my registration card for a very long time until I came back and go and re-register and get they took that one and gave me the new one. But the young people didn't register, and that was a problem for the United People Movement.
Okay. All right. Well, we learned a bit of history today. These are things that I knew, so thank you for that.
Yeah. You're welcome.
All right. Have a good one today.
All right.
Thanks. All right, so that was just a little bit more, information for us with regards to the past. All right, so thank you very much for that, Primus. All right, so we're going to head into another topic. And our topic right now is can our youth be involved in sustainability dialogue for good health and climate resilience? All right. Now, there's a lot of words in there and probably wondering, what is all of this conversation about? So to help to explain it to you, we're going to hand you over to Nicole. So Nicole, the floor.
Good morning again.
Everything is yours.
Good morning again and hello. That was actually the overarching theme of our activities over the last week that I was in San Luis Potosi in Mexico. Every year, for the last few years, we have engaged in a gathering that focuses on bringing a lot of topics together, but focusing on the future. Futurism is something we haven't really paid strong attention to in terms of dialogues about what will happen to us. What will happen to us if we had a real climate disaster in our region? And how will it affect not just us, but the future of the region, the future of our nations uniquely and collectively? And so the first goal that we've had as a global team with a regional focus in the Americas is to change that dialogue, both at a high level in terms of engaging with decision makers, policy makers, academics, and then going to the schools. And that's the best part, going into the schools and doing exercises with the young people, with the youth. Actually, this clip is for another discussion. But the children, having the children is really important, because what it does is you'll see a picture with children with pages on the floor, yellow pages on the floor. Yes, and those were the youth in Mexico from that state, San Luis Potosi. And what we did was an exercise with them in terms of designing what the future of their meal is going to look like. Particularly from that perspective of if we were to lose all food security and how it would tie into our health and our well-being, and particularly our sustainability and our sustenance. So that's where we are looking at the question this morning, which is, can our youth be engaged in sustainability dialogue to thrive for good health and climate resilience? And one of the things that I discovered during that time there last week and earlier this week was that everybody has floods, and some floods are way more. I don't even know if the word is devastating, but it's so scary to think that when we don't know what the weather is going to give us at the end of a situation, at the end of a pouring, particularly during the hurricane season, where right now we are kind of sitting ducks in some of the islands, it really makes us very, very pensive about what that devastation looks like. So we have to talk to the youth because they are the ones that are going to be most affected. But they're also the ones that we talked about change agency this morning earlier. They're the ones that are going to be contributing to the academic discussions, the studies, the influences of adding new formulae, new actions. And actually, one of the other activities, not in Mexico, but in the region, and particularly Trinidad and Tobago, is that I'm part of I was on a judging panel for a competition that is actually funded by Samsung, and it's called Solve Tomorrow. And we were part of the judging panel for the Trinidad contestants. And their project was again about sustainability and the weather. And they did a very simple project, of course, all science and innovation related. And the winning school, Marabella, in the south of the island, they did a very simple but effective project. And again, it focused on a weather alert system, but with that focus on collaboration. And I love when collaboration comes into a dialogue because it means we're thinking collectively, and it means we all want to see the change that we're talking about. So these young people, when I tell you the three schools, they had very strong projects, they had very strong innovative thoughts and ideas and actions. One of the project that won is called Don't Get Wet, and it really addresses the flooding situation. And we know what happens when a flood occurs after even the smallest, what we might consider as the smallest amount of rainfall. So yes, Roleza, what do you think? Dianna, what do you think? Do you think that our youth can be engaged in sustainability dialogue to thrive for good health and climate resilience?
Definitely. I definitely think they can be involved in dialogue, and more than dialogue, because we have some who have been they have the actions to match the dialogue, right? So I just want to name a few of these people. I went to look for some young people that are leading some changes. We have Adia Daniel from SVG, who is a youth activist who focuses on mental health, climate change. Nafisha Richardson, who's also of Intention, and Delight Oliver from Barbados. We have the Hey campaign, as well as Ashley Lashley and Maria Marshall, and from Antigua and Barbuda, Nevoy Morrison. So we have those youth here, right here in the region, who are actively involved. So they're not just involved in the dialogue, but they're doing things as well to, promote sustainability and climate resilience. Yeah.
All right, so my thoughts. You see, the reality of the situation for me, Nicole, is that the youth can be involved, the youth can have the dialogue, but what happens afterwards, right? Many times, young people will come up with their ideas, they come up with their suggestions, they're asked to be part of panel discussions. But is it that the conversation, in my opinion, and many times the conversation just stays in a vacuum? Because yes, it is that may come up with thoughts or solutions, express their thoughts, but it doesn't necessarily go further than that, right? many times we are going to be looking at the real agents of change being the policymakers, right? The governments. And if they are not in tuned, or they're not listening, or if they have other priorities, then I just kind of feel sometimes, it's just not to sound harsh, but it's like a talk shop, right? In that it's just a lot of talking that is happening, but their voices, while they speak, yes, are not necessarily being heard, or it's not necessarily cementing, and it's not necessarily bringing about the change that we would really want to see. I sounding kind of Trumpish. I'm sorry. It's probably like the one time I agreed with something that Trump said when he made that comment at the United Nations. But anyhow, that's just my thoughts, my honest thoughts. Mm-hmm.
So I hear you. And as Dianna said, these are the young people that are taking it forward. But the truth is, it's really never only dialogue. It's action. And I always say this, and I am saying it, and it's irrespective of who is in power, who is in charge. We cannot rely on governments only. And that's why public and private partnerships are critical. This is why innovation is critical. This is why youth leadership is critical. And that's why sometimes, okay, yes, we have all of these issues at hand. Yes, we have to talk to the policymakers for them to establish what stays on as actionable things. But we have power collectively and in small actions. And I feel like that's what we have to remove ourselves from, that reliance on, let's wait until somebody's ready to do it or to take it up. We have to really be that change that we want to see. And so in being that change, we have to action. We have to take action. We have to activate. And in activating, that's where you see behavioral change. Because then people are like, okay, this works, and we have a psyche where only when it starts to work or it's looking good or it's attractive, we jump in on the bandwagon, and that's fine. I don't mind bandwagonists because it helps to advance something eventually. So if while it's going good and it, and they ain't sure they like it, but they realize, hey, everybody else like it, and then they say, okay, I go and jump on too, I have no problem with that. Because to me, it's that everybody advances differently, emotionalizes, gets at that emotional state differently, starts to like something differently. I don't want to be liked immediately by everybody, but if you like me, you like me. But if you like what I'm doing and you like what it does for the world, let's go. So we have to adjust something in our psyches that is going to say, something, let's do this differently. And if students want to start it and initiate it and lead, let's go behind them. Let's support them. That's why Samsung is supporting future, Solve Tomorrow. Because in Solving Tomorrow, it's going to change a lot of things. And I want particularly from where I sit, because I have access to so many programs and stuff, I want to be able to introduce youth from St. Vincent and the Grenadines and other islands that are not involved or not aware or not familiar with some of these programs, and really, really put it on the table as an option and a new opportunity. And let me tell you, private money, it has plenty of it.
Yes. The thing of it is that I do agree with you in terms of doing it, okay, or getting involved on a small scale, because it would be silly of me to make that point, knowing that I was very much involved in community service organizations, right? And in our own way, we did our part. But one of the things, so even when I look at situations, let's say of a beach cleanup, right? This is us doing things to take care of the environment, take care of our natural resources, etc., in terms of keeping it clean and keeping it tidy. So we might be doing something on that small scale. We are effecting change immediately within that particular environment. But in about 2 weeks' time, you need to come back again. So when it is that I talked about government policy, it almost seems as if unless there's a big stick hanging over some people's heads, especially if it's not going to, especially if it relates to our attitudes towards littering. And I'm just using this as an example, right? Unless there's that big stick hanging over people's heads where you're saying that, okay, so if you are found guilty of throwing this or that out of a vehicle, and I think there is a law for it anyhow, but unless persons are fined and persons are uncharged, you do not necessarily always see the change in person's attitude unless the big stick is hanging over their head, which is why it makes the efforts of the smaller persons, the smaller groups, the voices of the young people who are effecting change in their own little ways, so much of an uphill task because of the fact that you have to try to change the attitude of society within itself. Not saying not to do those things, but it almost seems like a Herculean task.
And it is. It is.
When it comes to the topic of sustainability, climate resilience, and good health, as is mentioned there as well, for everyone going forward, I sometimes wonder if any of us, whether it be youth or the older adults, if we are even serious, because we know by now, we know what our problems are, we know the root of the problem, but it seems to be ignored. And one of the things mentioned is sponsorship and money. And oftentimes it seems as though it's a good cause, but we're so happy to hear we have a deal from such and such, or such and such is sponsoring us, or this is on board with us, even though we know that what such and such is doing is damaging the environment. We'll take their money and then go out there and do some sham thing to look as though we're interested in it, but we're not, because we'd rather the money. A lot of what is running the society today is what is killing us. But who is going to say, let us shut down this thing? Or if I say you must shut down this thing, they go say I wicked and I will take away employment and things like that. But are we going to continue living among the things killing us while we're complaining that the things are killing us, and then do what?
I love this. And you see, this is something I always talk about. And it really has to do with integrity, and integrity not just from the perspective of who is running that project or that idea, but the corporate sponsor who wants to put their hands into this. So again, we have to call out things. We have to ask questions. And sometimes people get offended by the hard questions. So I agree with you, Dianna. However, and that's where integrity comes in. I remember, because of the work I do, my daily work, I have declined much funding from many big organizations. I once had an offer for a lot of money and I said no. And I said no on the premise that it was not in alignment with the work I was doing or I am doing. And it would have been a conflict of interest for me. And I could not stand up in the world and in the public and say I am aligned to this particular thing. And so I look mad, I look stupid. Oh God, you're giving away all that money, you just walk away from millions of dollars. And I said no. I honestly, it was going to not sit well. It was not in alignment with the work I'm doing, and it still isn't. And if today again they invite me or ask me, I am not going. They asked me to come in and do education for their staff. I went in to do education for their staff, but I did not accept money, because I decided that if it is that you want to change the conversation and the world, you have to do it from a perspective of integrity, and you have to do it consistently inside of that dialogue of integrity.
Yes, it is an uphill challenge, but I mean, for the persons out there who are involved in whatever activity, big or small ways, to try to be that agent of change, you just never know. You might be able to influence at least another person, and let's hope there is a snowball type of effect that is happening. As Nicole laughing at, a snowball type of effect that is happening. So don't mind all of us. Nicole, very distracted. No, don't mind so much the conversation, but we were just having an honest and open conversation about this particular topic. But in your big or your small ways, whatever you can do to try to effect change, even if it's just within your own community, let's go ahead and do that until we find a way to possibly create a cultural shift or a cultural change, because we have to recognize that climate change is real. Currently, we have several communities that are being rationed water. Never in my life have I seen that during the rainy season, but I saw a notice yesterday. So for those who may not think of climate change as being real, climate change is here. And you have to get the youth involved. They have to be aware, because climate change also does have an impact with regards to our health as well, right? In terms of crop surety and all those other things, it does have an impact on the health. So you have to get the youth to understand what it means in the first instance, and how acts that they do or their parents do or their grandparents have done, how it has caused us to be where we are currently, and how we can try to make that change, because we would like for our children, our grandchildren to be able to live in a world maybe just a little bit better than how we know it currently, right? Even if that's even possible, but that is the hope. So yeah.
This is the last thing I'm gonna say.
Okay.
So in talking about the sort of double standard when it comes to climate and sustainability, right? So there's this conference that we've probably heard of, the COP conferences that usually take place, and it's to discuss climate, climate action and all of that. So there is a conference, I'm going to repeat that. So there's a conference to discuss the climate situation. And in preparation for this conference, the one that they're going to have, which is COP30, they're now cutting down the Amazon to build a 4-lane highway for that conference. Make it make sense.
Make it make sense. Plus, when you think about COP, every single year when it's happening, so much carbon emissions because everybody's flying to that location. The use of hotel, of the facilities and amenities, the continuous wastage, food wastage. Listen to me, and that is why we cannot be waiting on those big events to happen in the world, because it's really counterproductive and it's not in alignment with what we want to do. So I look at these events and I usually decline the invitations. I am sorry.
And even final before we end up, even with the sustainable development goals that many countries had signed on to, the 17 sustainable development goals that are supposed to be achieved by 2030, we also have to ask how far along are many of the countries with regards to many of these goals that they too had signed on to. So as I said initially, we talk a good talk, but do we walk the same walk? That is the challenge. All right. And with that, we are heading on out of this segment, and we will be back with more Activated Mornings here on WEFM.